Ambassador Thesh's hand shook as she stood before the recording device. Behind her, through the transparent walls of the council chamber, she could see her world dying. The great ocean cities of Valhera glowed with bioluminescent light, but that light was fading. Fires burned on the surface where there should be none. The Krent had arrived 3 days ago, and already half their world was lost. "This is Ambassador Theshe of the Valari people," she began, her voice cracking. "We send this message to any species willing to hear our plea. We are a peaceful race. We have no weapons of war. We have no armies. For 2,000 years we have lived in harmony with our oceans and with each other." She paused, touching the glass as an explosion bloomed in the distance. A city gone. Millions of lives erased in a flash of light. The Krenth Dominion came without warning. They did not ask for surrender. They did not offer terms. They simply began taking our water, boiling our oceans for fuel for their war machine. We tried to flee, but they hunt us. We tried to hide, but they find us. We have nowhere left to go. Thesha looked directly into the recording lens, her large eyes reflecting the flames outside. "We are not asking for soldiers. We are not asking for revenge. We are simply asking for shelter. Any world that can take even a few thousand of us, we will be forever grateful. We are dying. Our children are dying, please. If anyone can hear this message, please help us." She ended the transmission and collapsed into her chair. The other council members sat in silence around her. They had done all they could do. Now they could only wait and hope. The message traveled across the galaxy at faster than light speed. It's carried by ancient communication networks built by civilizations long dead. It reached the Galactic Council first, that grand assembly of 500 species who claimed to maintain order among the stars. The debate began immediately. "The Valhari system falls under Sector 7. Jurisdiction," said Ambassador Krell of the Torgothi. "We cannot simply intervene without proper authorization. By the time we get authorization, there will be no Valhari left to save," argued Representative Mina of the Sarathi Collective. "That is unfortunate, but we must follow proper procedures," Krell responded coldly. And so the debate continued. Forms were filed. Committees were formed. Subcommittees analyzed the committees. Meanwhile, the Valhari continued to die. The message reached Earth 12 hours after it was sent. It arrived during what was supposed to be a routine session of the United Terran Assembly. Representatives from every nation and colony sat in the Great Chamber, discussing trade agreements and resource allocation. Junior diplomat Chen was monitoring communications when the message appeared on his screen. He watched it once, his face going pale. He watched it again to be sure. Then he did something that would later be called either brave or foolish. He interrupted the session. "Mr. Speaker," Chen called out, his voice echoing in the chamber. "I apologize for the interruption, but there is an emergency message that everyone needs to see." The speaker frowned, but nodded. Chen's hand shook as he transferred the message to the main display. The entire assembly fell silent as Ambassador Thesh's plea played before them. They watched the fires burning. They watched the fear in her eyes. They watched a civilization crying out for help. When the message ended, the chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then Secretary General Park stood up, her face hard as stone. "How long ago was this sent?" she asked. 12 hours, ma'am," Chen replied. 12 hours. Park looked around the chamber. 12 hours that people have been dying while we sat here talking about trade routes? How long has the Galactic Council been debating? Chen checked his console. They received it 11 hours ago. They are still in committee discussions. A murmur ran through the assembly. Everyone knew what that meant. The Galactic Council would debate for weeks while the Valhari died. "I call for an emergency vote," Park said. "Motion to intervene." "Seconded," called out Ambassador Torres from the Mars colonies. "All in favor?" The speaker asked. Every hand in the chamber rose. "Not a single vote against." "Motion passes unanimously," the speaker declared. "Secretary General Park, you have full authority to respond." Park was already moving toward the exit. "Contact Admiral Okoro. Tell her to prep the Defiant for immediate departure. Get the architect and the apocalypse ready as well. Ma'am, Chen called out. The apocalypse. That is our planet killer. Are we really sending that? Park stopped and looked back at him. Her eyes were fierce. We are sending everything. When humanity responds to a cry for help, we do not do it halfway. 6 hours later, 3 massive human ships departed from Earth space. The UTNS Defiant, humanity's most advanced warship. The UTNS architect a construction platform the size of a small moon. In the UTNS Apocalypse. A weapon that had never been deployed in combat. The ships entered faster than light travel, racing toward the Velhari system. In her ready room, Admiral Okoro studied the tactical data on the Krenth Dominion. She saw their numbers. She saw their firepower. She saw their reputation for crushing weaker species without mercy. She smiled grimly. The Krenth were about to learn something new. On Velhara, Ambassador Desha received a strange alert. 3 unknown vessels had entered their system. The energy signatures were massive, but they were not Krenth. One read as a warship. One read as a construction vessel. One read as something their computers could not identify at all. Hope. Fragile as crystal began to bloom in her chest. We asked the humans for shelter. They sent commanders, builders, and bombers. Part 2. The UTNS Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a flash of light that lit up the Velhari system. Admiral Okoro stood on the bridge, her dark eyes studying the tactical display. 12 Krenth destroyers formed a blockade around Velhara. Behind them, transport ships continued to drain the planet's oceans. Hail the Krenth flagship, Okoro ordered. The face of Commander Zreth appeared on the screen. The Krenth looked like a giant insect, with mandibles that clicked when he spoke. Unknown vessel, you are interfering with Dominion operations. Withdraw immediately, or be destroyed. Okoro clasped her hands behind her back. I am Admiral Okoro, of the United Terran Navy. You are attacking a defenseless species. Withdraw your forces immediately. Zreth's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. This system belongs to the Krenth Dominion, by right of conquest. The Velhari are resources, nothing more. You have no authority here. You asked for law, Okoro said quietly. We are giving you justice. She cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. Sound battle stations. Alarms rang throughout the Defiant. Crew members ran to their positions. Weapons came online. Shields powered up to maximum. On the Krenth flagship, Zreth stared at his tactical display in disbelief. One human ship was facing down 12 Krenth destroyers. They must be insane. All ships, open fire. The Krenth fleet unleashed their weapons. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds filled the space between them and the Defiant. But the human ship moved like nothing they had ever seen. It twisted and rolled, engines flaring at impossible angles. Most of the shots missed completely. Turn fire, Okoro ordered calmly. The Defiant's railguns spoke with thunder. Magnetic accelerators launched tungsten rounds at a fraction of light speed. The first Krenth destroyer never knew what hit it. Its shields collapsed, and its hull split open, venting atmosphere. Target their engines, not their life support, Okoro commanded. We are here to stop them, not massacre them. The battle became a dance. The Krenth ships were bigger and more numerous, but the Defiant was faster and smarter. It would charge straight at one ship, forcing it to scatter its fire, then flip and boost away at the last second. It would appear to retreat, drawing enemies into a kill zone. Then pivot and strike from an unexpected angle. Commander Zreth watched 3 more of his ships go dead in space, their engines destroyed. What kind of species fights like this? He hissed. On Velhara, Ambassador Desha and her people watched the battle on their screens. They had never seen anything like it. The human ship moved with grace and fury, like a predator that had been holding back its true nature. They are fighting for us, Desha whispered. But why? They do not know us. Then something happened that changed everything. While the Krenth focused on the Defiant, 30 smaller ships appeared from behind Velhara's largest moon. They were human dropships, moving fast and quiet, Admiral, the tactical officer reported. Commander Leo reports, all Marines are in position. Okoro nodded. Execute Operation Turnabout. The dropship split into 3 groups. Each group headed for one of the massive orbital platforms the Krenth had built. These platforms were meant to bombard the planet. Breaking apart the ocean cities below, Commander Liu led the first assault team herself. Her Marines wore powered armor that let them move in zero gravity. They cut through the hull of the platform with plasma torches and poured inside. The Krenth. Soldiers inside were not prepared for close combat with humans. They were used to fighting from range, using their ships to destroy enemies from afar. But humans had learned to fight in cramped spaces, in cities and ships and tunnels. Every Marine was trained for this. Liu moved through the corridors like a ghost. Her team used flashbangs and smoke grenades to confuse the enemy. They used their smaller size to move through maintenance shafts. They worked together with hand signals and trust, built through endless training. Within 20 minutes, Liu's team had reached the platform's control center. She shot the lock off the door and threw it open. Everyone down on the ground. She shouted. The Krenth operators inside reached for their weapons, but froze when they saw the humans pointing rifles at them. There was something in the humans' eyes that made them stop. These were not random soldiers. These were professionals who knew exactly how to kill efficiently. Smart choice, Liu said. She walked to the control panel and began typing. Let's see how you like your own weapons. She reprogrammed the platform's targeting computer. Then she opened a channel to Admiral Okoro. Ma'am, Platform 1 is secure. Ready to fire on your command. Excellent work, Commander. Teams 2 and 3 report. Platform to secure, came the response. Platform 3, secure, said another voice. Okoro smiled. All platforms target the Krenth fleet. Fire when ready. Commander Zirth screamed in rage as his own bombardment platforms turned against his fleet. Massive energy beams lanced out, striking Krenth destroyers from behind. Their shields, configured to protect against attacks from space, were weak against attacks from the planet's side. 2 more destroyers exploded. 3 more went dark. The remaining Krenth ships broke formation and began to retreat. Pursuit course? Asked the tactical officer. Negative, Okoro said. Let them run. Our mission is to protect the Valheri, not chase revenge. The Krenth fleet limped away, leaving behind a field of debris and disabled ships. On Valhera, the Valheri people erupted in celebration. Their cities lit up with bioluminescent displays of joy. Children who had been hiding in shelters came out to see the sky clear of enemy ships. Ambassador. Desha stood in her chamber with tears streaming down her face. They had been saved. Against all hope, they had been saved, but Admiral Okoro did not join the celebration. She stood on her bridge, studying long-range sensors. Her expression was grim. Ma'am. Her tactical officer asked. This was just the blockade, Okoro said quietly. The real invasion force is 3 days behind them. 12 ships were just the advance guard. The main fleet has over 200 warships. The bridge fell silent. They had won the battle, but the war was just beginning. Okoro opened a channel to the Valhari. Ambassador Desha. This is Admiral Okoro. I need to speak with you immediately. We asked the humans for shelter. They sent commanders, builders, and bombers. Part 3, the UTNS Architect, was a marvel of engineering that made even the massive Defiant look small. It was not built for war. It was built for creation. The ship was shaped like a giant ring, with construction bays and factories built into every section. Thousands of drones swarmed around it like mechanical bees. Lead engineer Kowalski stood in the command center, watching holographic displays of the Valhari homeworld. She was a short woman with gray hair and hands scarred from years of hands-on work. She had built colonies on Mars, mining stations in the asteroid belt, and cities under Europa's ice. Now she had 3 days to turn an ocean world into a fortress. All teams, this is Kowalski. We are go for Operation Sanctuary. Deploy all construction drones immediately.
Ow.
Tech came alive. Thousands of drones detached from the main ship and dove toward Valhera. Each drone carried tools, materials, and blueprints loaded into their computer brains. They spread across the planet like a silver rain. Ambassador the Shah watched from the capital city as the drones descended. She had never seen anything like them. They moved with purpose and precision, already scanning the terrain and structures. A human shuttle landed near the council building. Kowalski stepped out wearing a pressure suit adapted for water environments. She walked to where Thesha stood and extended her hand. Ambassador Thesha, I am lead engineer Kowalski. Admiral Okoro told me about the incoming fleet. We do not have much time, so I will be direct. We are not evacuating your people. Ashah's face fell. But you said you would help us. I said we are not evacuating you, Kowalski repeated with a smile. We are fortifying your home. You should not have to leave. This is your world. We are going to help you defend it. The Czech could not speak. She had assumed the humans would take refugees, give them shelter on some distant colony. She never imagined they would try to save Valhera itself. But how? Desha finally asked. We have no weapons, no military. We are scientists and artists and farmers. Then we will teach you, Kowalski said. And we will build together. Within hours, human construction teams were working alongside Valhari civilians. The humans studied Valhari architecture carefully. They learned how the cities were built to work with ocean currents. They understood how the bioluminescent lights served both beauty and function. Then they began to build defenses that fit naturally into that environment. Underwater shield generators were disguised as coral reefs. When inactive, they looked like natural formations. When active, they created energy barriers that could stop plasma fire and kinetic weapons. Emplacements were hidden inside artificial rock formations. The Valhari showed the humans where their cities had natural caves and tunnels. The humans installed railguns and missile launchers that could pop up, fire, and retract back into hiding. The city walls were reinforced with regenerative hull plating, the same material used on human warships. If damaged, the material would slowly repair itself by drawing minerals from the surrounding water. A young Valhari engineer named Maurices worked alongside a human team installing power systems. She watched them work with amazement. They moved so fast, yet never made mistakes. Every action was practiced and efficient. How do you build so quickly? Maurices asked during a break. The human engineer, a man named Jackson, looked at her with sad eyes. Because we have lost worlds before. When I was young, the colony where I grew up was attacked by pirates. We called for help, but it came too late. Half the colony was destroyed before the Navy arrived. I watched my home burn while I hid in a shelter. He touched the wall they were building. After that, I studied engineering. I learned to build things that protect people, because no one should have to watch their home die while waiting for help that might not come. Morris's was quiet for a moment. I am sorry that happened to you. Do not be sorry, Jackson said. Be ready. We are giving you the tools to defend yourselves, but tools are useless without the will to use them. Are your people willing to fight? Morris's thought about her children hiding in the shelters during the Krenth attacks. She thought about the cities that had already been destroyed. She thought about what would happen if the humans left and the Krenth returned. Yes, she said firmly. We will fight all across Valhera. Similar conversations were happening. Humans taught Valhari how to operate weapons systems. They showed them how to coordinate defensive fire. They explained tactics and strategy. The Valhari were quick learners, and they had something the Krenth did not expect. They were fighting for their home. On the third day, the Galactic Council finally arrived. 5 massive ships appeared in orbit, carrying diplomats and observers from dozens of species. They had come to negotiate, to discuss terms, to debate jurisdiction. Ambassador Krell of the Torgathy contacted the Defiant. We demand to speak with whoever is in charge of this unauthorized intervention. Admiral Okoro appeared on the screen, her expression cold. You demand? You had 12 hours to help these people? You chose to debate. We chose to act. You had no authority, Krell argued. We had every authority, Okoro shot back. The authority of basic decency. The authority of conscience. The authority that says, when someone cries for help, you answer. The Kranth have legal claim to this system under conquest laws. There is no legal claim to genocide, Okoro said, and we will not debate this with you. We are staying until the Velhari can defend themselves. If you want to help start loading supplies on your ships, if you want to debate, do it somewhere else, Krell sputtered with rage. But the other council members were watching the construction happening below. Some of them looked ashamed. A few began ordering their ships to land with supplies. By the end of the third day, Velhara had been transformed. The peaceful ocean world now bristled with hidden defenses. Shield generators hummed beneath the waves. Weapons waited in concealment. And the Velhari people, who had never held a weapon before, now stood ready to defend their home. Kowalski stood with Morris's on a platform overlooking the capital city. There is one more thing, Kowalski said. She pressed a button on her datapad. High above, the UTNS Apocalypse decloaked. The massive ship appeared like a ghost materializing from nothing. Its hull was black as space itself, covered in strange angles that seemed to drink in light. Morris stared at it in awe and fear. What is that? That, Kowalski said quietly, is our final gift. The galaxy is about to learn why you do not threaten people under human protection. Long-range sensors screamed a warning. The Krenth main fleet had arrived. We asked the humans for shelter. They sent commanders, builders, and bombers. Part 4, the Krenth Armada, emerged from faster-than-light travel like a swarm of angry hornets. 200 warships spread across space in a formation meant to intimidate. At the center was the Dominator, the flagship of War Master Krenix himself. Krenix was old for a Krenth, his carapace scarred from 100 battles. He had crushed 47 worlds in his career. The Velhari would be 48. What is the status of Commander Zreth's blockade? He demanded. His tactical officer clicked nervously. Sir, the blockade was defeated. Zreth's ships have retreated to the outer system. Defeated. By whom? Humans, sir. A single warship and some boarding parties. Krenix's mandibles clicked in anger. He had heard of humans. They were a young species, barely 200 years in space. They had no great empire, no massive fleet. They were nobodies. One ship defeated 12 destroyers? Yes, War Master. And sir, there are 3 human ships in the system now. The warship, a construction vessel, and something our sensors cannot fully identify. It does not matter, Krenix declared. We are 200 strong. The humans will learn their place. Open a channel to them. Admiral Okoro's face appeared on the screen. Krenix studied her. She looked calm, almost peaceful. That annoyed him. Human, you have interfered with Dominion business. Withdraw now, and we will let you leave alive. Okoro smiled slightly. War Master Krenix, I have heard of you. 47 worlds conquered. Billions dead. You are very proud of that, are you not? I am proud of my service to the Dominion. Well, I have news for you, Okoro said, her voice turning cold. Velhara will not be number 48. We have mined every major asteroid in this system with fusion charges. We have positioned our ships at calculated strike points. And if you attack, we will turn this entire system into a graveyard, including our own ships if necessary. Krenix laughed. You are bluffing. No species would sacrifice themselves for strangers. You have never met humans, Okoro said. We call it assured mutual survival. You can leave peacefully and live. Or you can attack and die. Your choice. Krenix cut the transmission. He studied his tactical display. The humans had indeed positioned ships at strange locations, and his sensors were detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the asteroid belt. They are bluffing, he decided. All ships, attack formation. Target the Velhari capital city. The Krenth fleet began to move. 200 warships organized themselves into battle groups. Their weapons powered up. Their shields activated. "Wait for my command," Okoro said on the Defiance bridge. "Let them commit." The Krenth ships crossed the outer defense line. Then they crossed the middle defense line. They were heading straight for Velhera, ignoring the human ships. Now, Okoro commanded the UTNS Apocalypse fired, but it did not fire at the warships in front. It fired at the massive supply ships at the rear of the formation. These ships carried fuel, ammunition, food, everything the fleet needed to sustain a long siege. The Apocalypse's main cannon was unlike anything in the galaxy. It did not fire plasma or lasers. It fired compressed antimatter in a magnetic bottle. When it hit, matter and antimatter annihilated each other. Releasing pure energy, 3 supply ships vanished in flashes of light brighter than stars. The Krenth fleet suddenly found themselves cut off from resupply. They could fight 1 battle, maybe 2, but then they would be empty. At the same moment, the asteroid belt came alive. Fusion charges detonated in a carefully planned sequence. Rocks the size of mountains were flung toward the Krenth fleet at tremendous speed. Evasive maneuvers. Krennic screamed. The Krennic ships scattered, trying to dodge the incoming rocks. But that broke their attack formation. Ships collided with each other in the chaos. Some were crushed by asteroids. Others damaged their engines trying to escape. Then the human bomber wings appeared. They rose from underwater bases on Velhera like hunting sharks. These were not space fighters. They were atmospheric bombers adapted for space combat. Using tactics developed over centuries of warfare on Earth, the bombers flew low and fast. Using the planet's gravity well to build speed, they skimmed across the water's surface, making them hard to target. The Krenth ships tried to shoot them down, but the bombers used Velhari ocean skimming techniques, combined with human evasive flying. Wing Commander Taurus led the first squadron. Her bomber, the Tsunami, raced across the water at impossible speed. Behind her, 20 more bombers followed in perfect formation. "Target the cruiser's engines," Torres commanded. "Mark 1, Mark 2, release." The bombers released their payloads. Magnetic torpedoes locked onto the Krenth cruiser and struck its engine section. The ship shuddered and went dark, drifting in space. "Pull up, go around, line up for second pass," Torres called. The battle became chaos. The Krenth had numbers, but the humans had strategy. Every shot was calculated. Every attack had a purpose. The humans did not try to destroy the entire fleet. They targeted engines, weapons, command centers. They disabled rather than destroyed when possible. But when mercy was not possible, they showed no hesitation. A Krenth destroyer targeted a Velhari city with its bombardment cannon. Commander Liu, still on the captured orbital platform, saw it charging up. "Not today," she said coldly. She fired the platform's main gun. The energy beam cut through the destroyer like a knife through paper. It split in half, both pieces tumbling into space. Krennic watched his perfect fleet fall apart. These humans fought like nothing he had ever seen. They did not fight with rage or hatred. They fought with cold efficiency, like surgeons cutting away disease. "War Master," his tactical officer reported, "we have lost 50 ships. Another 70 are disabled. The humans are targeting our supply lines and mobility. We cannot sustain this." Krennic's pride warred with his survival instinct. He had never retreated. Never. But he had also never faced an enemy like this. Then something happened that shocked him. The Velhari themselves opened fire. The peaceful, defenseless species that had begged for mercy was now fighting back. Their hidden weapons emerged from concealment and fired with surprising accuracy. A Velhari railgun shot hit the Dominator's shield, making the whole ship shudder. "Impossible," Krennic whispered. They had no weapons 3 days ago. He understood then. The humans had not just defended the Velhari. They had taught them to defend themselves, and that changed everything. "We asked the humans for shelter, ... They sent commanders, builders, and bombers." Part 5. 3 months had passed since the battle. The Velhari system was unrecognizable. Defense platforms orbited the planet. Shield generators protected every major city. Patrol ships, built jointly by humans and Velhari, flew regular routes through the system. But the biggest change was in the Velhari themselves. They walked differently now. They held their heads higher. They were no longer victims. They were survivors. Ambassador the Chess stood in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. Beside her stood Admiral Okoro in full dress uniform. Behind them, a delegation of Velhari military officers stood at attention. Officers who had not existed 3 months ago. Ambassador Krell of the Torgothi looked uncomfortable. The council chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, all watching this moment. Ambassador Thesha, the council speaker, said formally, "You have requested this session to address the recent events in your system. Please proceed." Thesha stepped forward. Her voice was clear and strong. 3 months ago, I stood in my homeworld's council chamber and recorded a message. I begged for help. I asked for shelter. I asked for any species willing to take even a few thousand refugees. She paused, looking around the chamber. The Galactic Council received that message. You debated. You formed committees. You discussed jurisdiction and proper procedures. While you talked, my people died. Several council members looked down, ashamed. But one species did not debate, the chat continued. Humanity heard our cry and responded within hours. They sent 3 ships, a warship, a construction platform, and a weapon of last resort. They did not ask what we could offer them. They did not ask if we had strategic value. They simply came because it was right. She touched a control, and a holographic display appeared. It showed footage from the battle. The defiant fighting, impossible odds. Marines boarding enemy platforms, bombers defending Velhari cities, engineers working alongside Velhari civilians. Humanity did not just save us, Desha said. They showed us how to save ourselves. They built defenses with us, not for us. They taught us to fight, but also taught us when not to fight. They gave us the tools to stand on our own. Krell stood up. With respect, Ambassador, humanity also violated numerous galactic laws. They intervened in a conflict without authorization. They deployed weapons of mass destruction. They attacked Krenth forces without formal declaration of war. Okoro stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. With respect, Ambassador Krell, we do not need your authorization to do what is right. The Velhari called for help. We answered, that is what civilized species do. The Krenth had legal claim under conquest law, Krell argued. There is no legal claim to genocide, Okoro shot back. And if this council believes there is, then this council is morally bankrupt. The chamber erupted in argument. Some species supported the humans. Others demanded they be sanctioned. The debate raged for an hour. Finally, the council speaker called for order. The vote is called. All species in favor of sanctioning humanity for unauthorized intervention indicate now. 47 species voted yes. Thisha's heart sank. That was enough to pass sanctions. But then something unexpected happened. Species began standing up and changing their votes. The Sarathi Collective changes its vote to no. The Margathi Union changes its vote to no. The Delthora systems change to no. One by one, species changed their positions. Some because they were ashamed. Some because they were inspired. Some because they realized they might need human help someday. When the final count came, the sanctions failed. More than that, the council voted to officially thank humanity for their intervention. But Okoro was not finished. She stepped forward with a document in her hand. We have negotiated a treaty with the Velhari. It establishes a mutual defense pact. Any attack on Velhera is considered an attack on Earth. Krell's face went pale. You cannot do that. You would drag us into war. We are not dragging anyone, Okoro said calmly. This treaty has an interesting clause. Any species that provided material aid to the Velhari during the crisis automatically receives the same protection. Food, medical supplies, construction materials, anything that helped. Those species are now under human military protection. How? 17 species sent aid once we secured the system. Congratulations. You are all now part of a mutual defense network. The chamber exploded with noise. Species that had sent aid were shocked but pleased. Species that had not sent aid were furious. Humanity had just created a network of alliances with nothing but goodwill and determination. Krell sputtered with rage. This is manipulation. You have no right to bind us to your military commitments. We are not binding you, Okoro said. You can decline the protection if you wish. We will remove you from the treaty. But remember, the Krenth are still out there. Pirates are still out there. When the next crisis comes, you will face it alone. It's not a single species declined. The meeting ended and Desha found herself standing with Okoro in a quiet corridor. Thank you, Desha said. For everything, thank you for trusting us, Okoro replied. But our work is not done. The treaty is just paper. Real trust takes time to build, and we will build it together, Desha said. Back on Volhera, Morrises stood in the newly built engineering academy. Human instructors worked alongside Velhari teachers. Students from both species studied together, learning to build and defend and create. Commander Liu and Engineer Kowalski were preparing to leave. Their ships were packed. Their mission was complete. Morrises approached them, carrying a small box. The council wanted me to give you these. She opened the box. Inside were 2 crystals, glowing with bioluminescent light. These are naming crystals. In Velhari culture, we only give names to family. Liu, you are now called Violin, which means shield of the deep. Kowalski, you are now Korva, which means builder of hope. Liu took her crystal, and for the first time since the battle, tears appeared in her eyes. I am honored. Kowalski held hers up to the light. We will treasure these. Come back and visit, Maurices said. You will always have a home here. On the Defiant, Admiral Okoro made her final log entry. Mission to Velhera complete. Initial objectives achieved and exceeded. The Velhari are now capable of defending their home. The Krenth have agreed to a peace treaty recognizing Velhari sovereignty. 17 new species have entered defensive agreements with Earth. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. But the most important achievement cannot be measured in ships or weapons or treaties. We showed the galaxy that humanity stands for something. When others debate, we act. When others turn away, we step forward. When others say it is impossible, we prove them wrong. She smiled slightly. The Velhar asked for shelter. We gave them something better. We gave them their home back. That is what humanity does. We do not conquer. We do not dominate. We protect. We build. We stand with those who cannot stand alone. End log. The human ships departed Velhera in formation, leaving behind defense platforms, trained soldiers, and something more valuable than either. They left hope. On the surface, Desha watched them go. The bioluminescent cities glowed bright against the dark ocean. Children played in the streets without fear. Families rebuilt homes damaged in the war. She thought about that desperate message she had sent into the void. She had asked for shelter, expecting to become refugees on some distant world. Instead, humanity sent commanders who fought with honor, builders who shared their knowledge, and bombers who defended the defenseless. Most importantly, they sent a message to the galaxy. A message that said some things matter more than profit or politics. Some things are worth fighting for. Some cries for help demand an answer, and when humanity answers, they do not do it halfway.